Hi everybody, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading video for the week beginning Monday, July the 22nd to the 28th, 2019. So let's get started and see what's ahead for this week. And two cards have just fallen out. I just literally picked up the card deck and these two fell out. So at first I thought maybe I made a mistake here, but I've got a good feeling about these two, so we'll go with it. So the love card, I think, has been coming up a couple of times over recent months, and it's an interesting card because in many ways it's so basic. We've just got the word love and the word God down here. Sub that out for the universe, creator, source, whatever you use to describe that universal love that we know as a God force. So I mean, the card is really just telling you to come back to that energy of love and make sure you're acting in alignment with love. If you are, sorry, so I've just got some information coming through. Let me just park that for a minute and go back to what I was going to say. So that means if you're treating yourself kindly, if you're acting in accordance with what you know is right for you, all that sort of stuff. So what I was just getting a bit frazzled with was I need to explain to you guys the difference between, I need to explain that saying no to people who are making unrealistic and unfair demands on your time and your energy is an act of love. The problem is that sometimes we think love means saying yes to everybody and exhausting ourselves trying to do what other people want us to do because we think that's very caring towards them. It's actually not, because you're letting yourself down. And so it's not selfish to say no, it's essential self-care. And in fact, if you are saying yes to people when you really want to say no, you are out of alignment with love, and you're probably and potentially you're enabling bad behavior on their part as well. So don't forget that love doesn't mean self-sacrifice. Yeah. Boundaries are super important. They're an act of love. Now, the other card here we've got is sweetness. And this is about the joy or the sweetness of life in terms of enjoying our lives. For so many of us, life becomes something that we endure instead of enjoy. And we forget about simple pleasures to enjoy and really being present and making the most of how good things are. Sunsets, really appreciating the joy of seeing a rainbow or anything like that. But instead we're like, oh yeah, back to the phone. Really busy, can't talk. Really taking time to appreciate and immerse ourselves in those moments, because life is here to be enjoyed and we must appreciate the sweetness of it, because otherwise it's all a bit monotonous and tedious and it becomes more about the struggle. Make sure you're not glorifying the struggle and thinking life is hard. It can be really hard, but it can also be incredibly wonderful, and don't get too out of balance there with your attention. If you are telling a story to yourself or to other people that life is hard, life's really unfair, whatever it is, you might need to change the record, because you're going to attract a lot of situations that affirm that story. That's not to deny that they can be those things, but we want to make sure that's not the main. So Tuesday is a super interesting card, parents. This card always makes me laugh because these two parents look like they're in some sort of folk band from the 70s. So God love them. But as much as that looks super joyous, the message of the card is not necessarily. So my spiritual coach says to me, if you want to understand your story or what you're here to work through, look at your parents. And that doesn't mean that you're here to replicate what they did, but it does mean a lot of their stuff will have been passed on to you. The quote, and I forget who it's come from, is pain that is not transformed is transmitted. And that's how we see cycles getting passed down for generations and generations of kids not being kids perhaps being neglected in the extreme, or maybe kids not being taught they're allowed to express their feelings. That's something that I see get passed down a lot. Certainly in my family it's been the case, until someone breaks the cycle, until someone owns this stuff and goes, this is not what I want, this has been damaging, I'm going to do something about that, I'm going to learn to get comfortable with expressing my feelings, and I'm going to teach the next generation to do the same, partly through role modelling, of course. That's the main way we teach. So just look at where you might be replicating things that your parents taught you that actually aren't serving you. Perhaps your parents had a horrible divorce and you learned that relationships will always be a struggle. And that means you will then go on to attract relationships that are a struggle. Or, you know, gosh, there's so many things that you can take on board. Expressing feelings is a big one I see a lot. Perhaps if you had one parent walk out on you, or both parents, you might have got, taken on board the belief that you're going to be rejected by people close to you, and so you will either keep them at bay or you will keep rejecting yourself in those relationships, maybe by bolting early or something like that. These are just examples. I'm not trying to make anyone feel crappy. I'm just sharing various things that I've seen in my work as an energy healer. We can change these patterns. No one is destined to become their parents unless they choose to. And the main ways that we might choose to is by choosing not to do the work that we need to do on ourselves. And everybody's got stuff. Everybody. A lot of people aren't aware of it. A lot of people don't want to deal with it, so they stuff it down and just make everybody else the problem. So look at what might be going on with your parents. If you don't have any sort of patterns in your life or any sort of issues that are replicating stuff your parents went through, or it might be replicating responses to or the way your parents responded to situations. It could be that this is on a very benign level, just telling you to spend more time with your parents, or it could be telling you to make peace with something that happened with your parents. If there was a rift or something like that, doesn't mean if you've got toxic parents, it doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life. It just means you need to let go of any ill feeling around that so you can be at peace with whatever's happened. Very big message, and there's so many ways I could tell you guys about this. The card also comes up for people who want to become parents, and it reassures you to keep going with that if it's something that's really important to you. And, making sure that you're really ready for that in terms of emotionally, the work that you've done on yourself. I'll just leave it at that, because otherwise I'm just going to be all the live long day. Let's go to Wednesday now. Shuffling here. Prioritize. Super practical message here in terms of our stress management or our schedule management or lack thereof. So often we spread ourselves too thin because we're trying to do too much at once. Multitasking does not work. There is so much research proving that. It doesn't stop us trying, but you cannot do things well if you're trying to do all the things all the time. So this is asking you to prioritize what is most important to you on a very day-to-day level. What am I trying to achieve too much? What am I trying to achieve today that might be too much for me to handle? And how can I scale back? What's really important? And then on a larger scale level, this might be, what are you focusing on in terms of what you're trying to achieve in your goals? Maybe you're trying to do too much. If you're trying to attract a relationship and build a career, a business, and you're also trying to do this in your health area, if you've got too many goals, you can spread your energy too thinly, and the universe can't really support you if you spread your energy too thinly, because you're not sending a clear direction of where you want the energy to go to support you. So chipping away at lots of different things is not necessarily the best way to go. For some people it might work, but this card indicates that it's probably not the best way to go. Just choose the main goals that you want to focus on and keep going with those. You're not here to, okay. Another thing I need to mention with that card is it comes back to that message of your worth is not defined by your productivity. Sometimes the reason people are running around trying to do all the things all the time with all the coffee is because, no judgment if you drink a lot of coffee, is because they feel they're trying to prove something. They've maybe dealing with imposter syndrome. They feel like they suck at what they do, so they feel like if I achieve lots of things, I'll prove to everybody that I'm really good at this job, and I'll prove it to myself as well. And that just doesn't work, because the more you do, you're not going to fill that emptiness by doing things. You need to really do some work on why you feel like you've got to run around doing things to prove your worth. You need to do some work around feeling like coming to a place of acceptance of your value as being innate and intrinsic, and not being something that you get externally through external measures. Hopefully that made sense. We're on Thursday. As per usual, my counting's a little bit off. Oh boy, unity. This card is really about harmony. Now, the reason I just said oh boy is because it's a little tenuous to explain. So this is about reminding the fact that we're different, but we're all essentially the same people. So look at where you might be fostering intolerance, perhaps, or where you might be isolating or trying to compete with other people, or saying I'm better than that sort of people. Those sort of people. Now, I don't think anybody watching this is going to be an intolerant person. I really don't. I doubt there are any racists watching this video, because if you're drawn to this sort of work, that's just not your bag. But I mean, it can come up for people who deal with things like that, or and you know, when we have those issues, it's comes back to fear. Feeling like you need to compete, put other people down to make yourself feel superior, or that there's enough for you. You're not going to miss out on anything. It's about trying to keep your power as a group or as an individual, and we know that power doesn't really come from being better than other people. It actually comes from our connection with the divine and knowing that we're supported as we move forward, doing what is right for us. It doesn't come from putting other people down. That saying, bullies, they're trying to put other people down to make themselves look big, but they actually just make themselves look like jerks. So, yeah, I've gone off on another tangent here. Unity might be looking at ways that you actually have more in common than the people that you think you don't have anything in common with after all. So just be aware of where you might be making snap judgments about people. Oh, those people are shallow, they're not my people. Oh, those people aren't spiritual, or therefore they're not my people. In fact, spirituality is something you don't really see anyway, so you might be quite wrong about that. And even if people aren't spiritual, it doesn't mean they're not good people. So yeah, I feel it might be coming back to that message we had 2 weeks ago about the judgment. That was the Mary Magdalene card, you might remember, if you're playing at home. But don't worry, you don't need to go back if that doesn't trigger anything for you. The Mary Magdalene card was about how when we feel insecure, we try to compete with other people and we judge them. So Brene Brown, and I think it's the Daring Greatly book, says that when she feels secure about her parenting, she's not criticizing other people's parenting. And it's not just parenting. Obviously, this shows up. We put down people because of their weight, their sense of style or lack thereof, their life choices, maybe the way they conduct their relationship, all sorts of things. So maybe just the message for you could be looking at how remembering that other people are struggling, and we need to do what we can to support each other, or at the least, if we can't support each other, not try to pull each other down. So Friday, yep. I had to double check. So Friday, play. This is very closely related to that sweetness card we had for Monday. Play. We need to have fun in our lives. We are here to learn things and grow, but we're also here to enjoy ourselves. Now, obviously, that does not mean at the detriment of other people. If you are sabotaging other people's lives by, I guess an example could be people who go out drinking and then come to work hungover, which means their workmates have to do all the work for them. That's perhaps not a very good example. But what I mean is, if you're play that is not destructive, I guess, to other people or to yourself. Play that is invigorating, that makes you remember how good it is to be alive, that makes you feel young again, or reminds you that you're not old, perhaps, I could put it that way, makes you feel more present, and makes you feel really freaking grateful to be here and having this experience. Now, I know life can be extremely challenging, as I said, but there are always pockets of joy that we can find and indeed cultivate. So there it is. Saturday. Not sure if I've got the right card deck here. Okay, turns out I have. Another 2 cards. So we have energy healing work. I'm an energy healer. I talk about it all the time, so I'm not going to bang on about it now. But basically, we have an aura around us, or an energy field, and if you are struggling to attract something you want, or you're attracting something you really don't want, it could be that there's a block in your energy, and those blocks can be formed by past life experiences where we've brought through that energy into this life and hasn't been healed, or they can be formed by limiting beliefs and particularly fears. You're afraid of something, it's going to form a block in your energy field. And that is why you cannot dispute it by logic alone. I've talked about this before, but if you're afraid of flying, being told that you're not that likely to have an accident, be in a car crash, you're more likely to be in a car crash than an air accident, is not going to be remotely comforting to you, because it is a fear, it is an emotional response. It's based on energy. It's got nothing to do with logic or statistics. So this might be a call for you to look at some energy healing that needs to, or energy healing is a potential approach to whatever you're struggling with at the moment, or it might be a call for you to investigate your own powers, to abilities, not powers, maybe not the right word, to be an energy healer and to step into that space. And I suspect some of you already are. Now, the other card is make a commitment. I'm going to look at how these connect in a minute. But first of all, commitment, yes, can be about relationships, about recommitting to your relationships. Make sure you're not taking each other for granted. You're spending time together. You're having those important conversations that matter, and you're recognizing your partner for the person that they are and not the person they used to be, or putting them on a pedestal, or idealizing them, over-romanticizing things in any way, making sure you've each got room to grow in the relationship while still holding hands. We don't want to be struggling together. There was a great saying I read about relationships once, that often people think of their partner as their anchor, but if someone's your anchor, that means they're going to drown. So instead we want to be floating, swimming along side by side, holding hands like otters do, rather than trying to weigh each other down. Hold me. So the other commitment thing here is about your goals, and I feel this is actually the stronger message related to this card. Really commit to what you set out to do. It could be your life purpose, what you're here on this planet to do, and you've been delaying because it seems kind of hard and you don't know where to start, which is okay. Just get started. You don't have to know necessarily all the steps, or the goals you made a while ago that you quietly put aside because, again, they seemed too hard and you felt like a failure. You might need to use some energy healing to help you with those. Perhaps the reason you keep failing at your goals is because you're too attached to them emotionally, to the point where if things go wrong, you feel like a failure and you just quit and storm away and pretend it never happened. I've had a client recently who was so attached to their goals, there was actually no room for the universe to come in and help, because they had a neediness rather than just, and I want this. They had a need. I need this to happen. It's going to define me. It's going to make me. It's my life is hopeless if I don't have this thing. So that is a surefire way to block that event, that thing you're attracting or trying to attract from coming through. So you might need to look at how energy healing can support your goals and your commitments. As well as the form of energy healing I do, which is primarily about talking, identifying the wounds and what's going on underneath, and then healing it through the energy field. There are other forms such as reflexology, Reiki. I do Reiki, but it's very lightweight. I would suggest it's probably not the best for this sort of these sort of deeper issues. But if it resonates for you, by all means, go for it. There's also shamanism that can be really great, past life regression, depending on what you're going through. So, as always, trust your intuition on what's going to resonate for you. Sunday, and if you need validation, don't forget to ask for a sign. I think this is right for me. I'd like some validation or confirmation from the universe. So Sunday's card is a goddess called Rhiannon, I think Celtic, and the sorceress message. It's all about your own ability to create magic. And so, of course, the law of attraction comes up here whenever we're talking about magic. And in fact, the card says you're a magical person who can manifest your clear intentions into reality. Now, I'm being told clear intentions is super important with this card. If you are not clear on what you want, the universe can't help you. It's like going to a restaurant and saying, oh, just give me whatever, and then being really dissatisfied with what they dish you up because it wasn't what you wanted. You need to be super clear on what you want. Now, you don't have to know all the things about how it's going to play out. For example, if you're trying to attract a relationship, you don't have to know who the relationship's going to be with, or when you're going to meet this person and how the relationship's kind of going to play out. You just need to work on wanting the relationship, the feelings you want to feel in that relationship. You want to feel safe, you want to feel nurtured, you want to feel encouraged and supported, and that you've got room to grow and do your work, and that there's room for you to open up and be yourself and be authentic. That's just my read on things, obviously. Everybody has their own idea about what they want from a relationship. But you don't want to go saying, I want it to be with this person at this time and on this, this date, I want to be wearing this outfit. So you want to focus on how you're going to feel. That's really the best way to attach to a goal. So clarity is super important. And when it comes to manifesting, we also need to make sure we're not blocking those goals in any way. So here I'm coming back to that energy message here. You can block your goals from coming through, again, like I mentioned about being too attached to them or having a neediness instead of a healthy desire to create them. You can also be too controlling. You're trying to stranglehold the energy sometimes when you are trying to you're trying to control the process about how, like I said before, about how you want it to happen and when, etc. And which is going to leave you very disappointed when it doesn't play out the way you want it to. I've been there. Also, we can also block things by not being ready, and the relationship's a classic example. If you are not ready for a relationship because you haven't healed from the last one, or because you're attaching to it because you think it will give you value in the world, or it will heal your pain, or like stick a band-aid over them, or it will become your identity instead of working on, cultivating your own identity, which is super important. It's just not, you're not going to be able to manifest a healthy relationship in that space. You can also block your goals by not taking ownership of your own issues that have contributed to the reasons you've been blocking them. For example, if you're trying to manifest some money, but you're not owning up to the fact that you're not responsible for the money that you have. You're not owning up to the negative or the unhelpful beliefs you have around money in terms of maybe a scarcity mentality, or you're not paying your bills, which signals scarcity to the universe, or you're blaming other people for your problems. Instead of looking at what actions you've been taking. Another really great way to attract what you want is to take action. Obviously, you don't want to try to control it, as I mentioned, but you do need to be making steps in the right direction. You can't expect these things to just land in your lap. So those are a few very quick ways that we can block things that we want from coming through. And the law of attraction, I think, has been a little bit commoditized to the point where it's so oversimplified that people think all they need to do is ask the universe for something and it will just show up. And we know that doesn't work. And it will leave you disappointed, will leave you angry at the universe, and it will leave you feeling very lost and stuck, and perhaps even fueling a victim mentality, which is super unhelpful. So if you want to book in an energy healing session with me, you know how to do that. It's on my website. Just go to the bookings form. But please don't feel obligated to speak to me. There are so many of us doing wonderful work in the world, and I'm not right for everybody. I'm just not. You need to go with the person who feels right for you. They speak language you can understand. And it's intuitive. You just trust your intuition on that. So just because I made the mistake of having a card reading with someone who my friend just absolutely thought this guy was incredible, and I didn't really get that much value out of it. Not that he was bad, he just wasn't right for me. You've got to have someone who speaks your language and who you just really connect with. The energy feels good. So you can come and see me if you want to, or someone around those sort of blocks, but I also recommend you do a lot of reading. There's tons of information about the law of attraction and how it works or doesn't. And of course, Esther Hicks is a great authority on manifestation. I don't know that much about Esther Hicks because I haven't really resonated with it, but a lot of the quotes that I have seen in various places have certainly provided me with some clarity around it. So whatever speaks to you. Make sure you steer. I would recommend you steer away from anything that's too gimmicky, because I just think it's not really the way the law of attraction was designed, and I think it's just going to lead to you taking shortcuts or skirting around things that actually need to be resolved in order for you to attract the thing you want. Relationships are a classic example of that. So let's look at what we've got going on here. We've got a theme around joy and enjoying our lives, joy and enjoying, with that play, and we had that sweetness card here as well. We've got a focus around goals in terms of the prioritizing and the commitment message here, and even the energy stuff as well around how we attract what we want is coming through strongly for the weekend. And we've also got a continuation of a recent theme around non-judgment. And I will say that I don't think it's entirely realistic to ever be completely free of judgment, because we are human, but we can certainly take steps in that direction and really own when we're steering into that territory, and figure out what we can learn from that and how we can move through it. That's it. I've talked enough. It's 25 minutes. I'm sorry. It's really long. To be fair, they did give me 2 days worth of 2 cards. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back next week, as I am every week, failing technology issues. Touch wood. And you can find me on my Instagram at OneGroundedAngel. My Facebook page is OneGroundedAngel, and my website, if you don't already have it, is www.onegroundedangel.com. That's ONE, not the number 1, spelt out, OneGroundedAngel, all one word, .com. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a terrific week.